Good afternoon and welcome to our first session in the Digital Workplace Learning Series. Can someone out there give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, great. I see some thumbs there. Thank you very much. I'm Karen Mann. I'm with NCDIT's Enterprise Collaboration Services Division, and we're excited to kick off this 8-week series, which we announced at our Digital Workplace Success Summit, which took place on August 6th, both in person at Wake Tech and online. We had almost 400 people in person there, and we had nearly 2,000 people online that day. So you can see videos and presentations from that event that I placed in the Q&A. The Q&A is your place to ask questions, and we will try to answer them as they come along if we can, but we are going to hold the big Q&A till the end. I've also placed a link to the main webpage for the series in that Q&A. These free sessions are taking place on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. through October 15th. Each session is designed to help you build practical skills, deepen your understanding of essential tools, and discover new ways to work efficiently and securely. We also have many resources available on our Enterprise Collaboration Services site, including a page on Copilot with Copilot resources and training. In addition, we have the All Things M365 user group, where you can discuss Copilot and other M365 products with users throughout state government. Finally, we'd love to get your feedback on this session. Your feedback helps us tailor our future trainings to your needs, and we will put a link to that in the chat as well. So today's session is on the Copilot Agent Briefing with John Parrott of Planet Technologies. If you attended the Digital Workplace Success Summit, you know that John's session was incredibly popular, and we are very excited to have him back. So if you have any questions, please add them to the Q&A, and we will answer them at the end. And with that, I will turn it over to John.
Thank you so much, Karen. And hello, everyone, and welcome to this session about Copilot agents. Now, many of you probably know that if you came to my session last time I was in North Carolina, that I have a bit of a predilection for wanting to follow down rabbit holes. So I did want to just reiterate something that Karen said, and that is, during any time of this session, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, I want you to go ahead and use that Q&A button that you see at the very top of the screen. There may be some times where I have a little bit of free time as the Copilot system is trying to go through whatever I request of it, and I might be able to answer a few questions in between then. However, I will try and leave time at the very end of the session to answer all of your questions. And if I don't get to it, I'll try and make sure that I can reach out a little bit after this session and make sure that you walk away feeling like you have all the knowledge you need to succeed. But speaking of succeeding, let's talk about Copilot agents today and where we're really going to begin with this. So our agenda is going to first of all covering kind of getting into the right headspace when it comes to agents. Because again, this is not just a tool. Copilot itself is not just a tool that we use like we used to, like with Word or PowerPoint or Excel. This is something that this is a relationship that we're building, and having that mindset in our brains as we go ahead and interact with it is vitally important to make sure that we get the most out of it, because we know what's possible and what hopefully you'll get experimental with, what you're going to try and see what happens and find the value that you can really get out of it on a personal level. But once we get that headspace right, we're going to be talking about Copilot and agents. What is really the difference, what you can get out of both, and we'll also be talking a little bit about these agents in the sense that we're going to be trying to make these agents specific for you and how this works. Then we're going to be talking about agents, and I know it says for the classroom in that moment, but for right now, I want you to think of this as the learning session, where we're going to go in and actually do some demonstration on how you can be learning how to create these agents from scratch. And I'm going to show you demonstration and ability to create them on your own in some cases. Then we'll talk a little bit about governance, about what you need to know about how these agents work, when you need to maybe employ the help of IT to get that done. And then finally, we'll talk about next steps, what you need to do to really take this step on the journey of Copilot agents. But let's go ahead and get inside of that mindset. Whoop. So first thing I want to make sure everybody knows is that whenever it comes to any AI, it is not here to try and do your job. The reason why we are being so valued by AI is not because it's going to do everything that we do. It's because it's going to allow us to focus on the things that we are most passionate about and the skills that we have that make us hired for the job that we are engaged with. So therefore, I want you to be thinking about not this tool as, oh, how is it going to do everything I do? But I want you to have that mindset of, everything that I'm going to do with Copilot, I want it to be supporting me in ways that I know I need help. Whether that's doing tasks that are really repetitive, that don't need your specific outlook or attention, or maybe it's when you just need to jump to a specific portion of your project, such as going from instead of drafting directly to editing. These are the type of things to have in your head and how Copilot can assist you, because that's the right mindset to have and how it can truly be supportive. However, as we talk about Copilot as a whole, we need to understand really what we can approach it with, what we can ask of it. And in this case, I love to usually tell people to think of it like an intern. And the simple fact that you can, ask the intern questions, you can ask it to create things for you, you can ask it to gather data to catch you up on information. And with the help of agents, you're going to be able to start getting a little bit even beyond what that intern can do. But all in all, the base level of Copilot is really there piggybacking off of your permissions to try and support you the best that it possibly can by reaching out to all the different avenues that you have in order to gather information, whether that's Teams or Word, whether that's your chats, whether that's your emails. It's going to compile all that information and try and deliver it to you the way that you're requesting. But with that intern mentality, you need to remember that it's never going to understand the nuance of what you do and the job that you perform. And that's why, as we're speaking to our standard level of Copilot, what you normally have on a day-to-day basis outside of agents, we need to be very prescriptive in what we need it to accomplish. Normally, that leads us to write very long and detailed prompts to really help that Copilot understand exactly what we need to do, showing it examples of what is good and what we're looking for. And that can be a huge process. And luckily, Microsoft has made it so you can save those prompts for later down the road. But what we are going to look at today is actually taking an upgrade to that standard Copilot experience. So if Copilot is our intern, then these next few products we're going to talk about are definitely more specific to the jobs you're trying to get them to accomplish. So the first thing we're going to be talking about today is kind of in a gray area between the standard Copilot and a full-on agent, and that is Copilot notebooks. And for that, you can kind of think of it like a digital librarian. It's going to be able to take all this information that you give it, but only focus on that information. Those predefined guidelines that are going to be available are going to allow that Copilot not to necessarily pull ancillary information from your emails or grab something from the web that you don't want influencing your data. You can gather a lot of information into one folder, point that Copilot at it, and now it's going to become an expert on that subject or topic. However, once we're done talking about notebooks, then we can move on to the main meat of today's session, and that is Copilot agents. Now, there's really kind of two different agents that we can really get into. The first of all is the personal assistant agents. These are the ones that you're going to be able to build as just a standard user with help from Microsoft to make sure they're as robust and complete as you need. These you can develop on your own. You can share a little bit piecemeal with other friends that might have some needs that you might be giving. But at the same time, you might start realizing that there are some limitations to what these basic agents can do. Even though they can really help cut down on time for you and take all that information you need and already have it pre-programmed in, when it comes to Copilot Studio agents, our last element, that's where you're going to get an explosion of more possibility, because Copilot Studio agents are going to be able to actually interact with your Microsoft environment, such as moving documentation for you, adding things to a SharePoint list, sending emails on your behalf. And that is going to be much more of a power user, or most likely an IT form of agent that you're going to want to start interacting with. So it's not going to be as easy to create, but it is going to be much more powerful, and that usually leads there to be a little bit of oversight whenever you're creating it. But again, I'm going to be showing you examples of all of these today. So first thing that I want to talk about right now is our notebooks and how these really work. Now, with our notebooks, again, as I'm saying, think of it visually as literally creating a notebook that you're putting documents into, and then Copilot, a kind of copy of Copilot, is now focused intently and only on this documentation, being able to deliver back answers and resources that are going to be incredibly powerful. Now, I'm about to give you a demonstration on what a notebook looks like, but I do want to have just a quick disclaimer before I begin. Number one, this is going to be a demo environment that I'm showing you. This is not the environment from North Carolina. There may be some things that are a little bit different than what you're seeing in your world as what you're seeing in mine. But for the most part, everything should be there one form or another. But that's a great reason to start exploring, checking out the different settings that are there, and seeing what's possible for you. But if there is something that I show today and you really can't seem to find it, make sure to contact your IT team, and they're going to be happy to help you find whatever you're looking for. But with that out of the way, let's start talking about notebooks. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and where I am right now is office.com. Now, there are multiple different ways to get to this. The new renaming of the site is the m365.cloud.microsoft, which you can type into your line, into your URL line, but I still go just to office.com and it still drops me here. I still have that muscle memory. And what this page is taking you to is kind of the home page for all of your Microsoft products. And the very first thing that it's going to pop up is a new chat within Copilot, because that's really our forward-facing element of Microsoft in today's society. Now, something I do want to go ahead and shout out to North Carolina, because you're one of the first people in the governmental tenant that I've heard about turning it on, is that actually there's been a brand new upgrade to just the standard version of Copilot that you might have. So with that in mind, if you want to, you can travel up to where it says this auto button in the top right-hand corner. And when you click on it, there's going to be a few drop-down options. Now on my screen, you're going to see the ability to decide between if Copilot's going to give me a quick response or if it's going to take a little bit longer time to think deeper. But for you, you are going to see new options of saying, do you want to use ChatGPT or Claude, or it could be ChatGPT or Opus, actually, excuse me. And so those are going to be two new LLMs that you can actually utilize in order to get answers back from Copilot. Think of LLM as the reasoning portion of your Copilot experience. It's at the very core, and it's what drives how the Copilot is going to respond, how detailed or specific the answers are going to be. And I'm going to tell you, it comes standard with ChatGPT, but I highly suggest you all give Opus a try. In my opinion, it's a little bit far superior than what ChatGPT is offering and will give you so much more detailed work that I think you'll be a lot happier with it. So good on you, North Carolina, for having that available, and hopefully you'll be able to try that on your own after this session, because we're in the middle of this. You should be watching me, right? All right, with that in mind, let's go ahead and start talking about notebooks. So in office.com, you will find notebooks down here on this left-hand rail. And I'll go ahead and click on this all notebooks option, which should be very close to what you see. And right away, it's saying, hey, do you want to create a new notebook? So the first thing I'm going to do is give this notebook a name. I'm going to go ahead and name this Sprockets Project. Now, Notebooks are really good in any way that you might need to collect information. In this sense, I'm going to be using it for projects, meaning that it's a specific project. I'm putting all the files related to this project inside this notebook. But some other great uses that can come along with it is if you have a whole entire department of information, and whenever someone new comes on board, you want to give them a notebook saying, hey, here's all the information about how to contact IT. Here's all the information about how we work, who you need to talk to for certain things. You can create kind of a how-to guide for new people with a notebook. Not only that, but you could also have it viewed around departmental notes or departmental projects. You can make this really bounce around your specific area. Or if you are just an individual, you can go ahead and start keeping notes about your own workday in here as well, having it being recorded and kept so that way you can easily reference, hey, what did I do last week? What did I do last month? As long as you're good at keeping notes, this notebook is going to be able to help answer some of those questions. But in this case, I'm going to be talking about sprockets, a specific project that in this made-up world I've made, we're going to build a notebook around. So the first thing I'm going to do is find files that I want to include inside of this notebook. Now, the first thing it will do is bring up some information that I can pull from because these are files that I've recently opened. I can also copy and drag files directly into my computer onto this line and have them uploaded that way. But most likely, if you're following the right Microsoft protocols, the button you're going to look for is over here on this right-hand side. This is an upload button where you can upload from your computer. This is add a link button if you want to add a web page specifically. But we also have these blue puffy clouds. And by clicking on that, I can get access to my OneDrive as well as any of my SharePoints that I would need access to in order to pull files. So I'm going to click on My Files and I'm going to search Sprockets. And all the different files, oh no, let me just try Sprocket. There we go. And I'm going to say every single file with Sprocket in the title, I'm going to want to load in here. Now, something you're going to note here is that all of these are being saved within my files within my OneDrive. I could also pull SharePoint files as well. But as I load these in, they are going to not just be a static version of these documents. They're going to be actually documents that can be updated by other people where they live, and all of that up-to-date information will be fed into the notebook. So if you're going to be pulling from a cloud source, you have the resource of not having to re-add new files or worry about updating. It's always going to have the latest and greatest. So now I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And within Create, all of those files have been brought into my Sprockets project, and now I can start asking questions of this notebook about all the documentation that I've let in. In fact, I'll go ahead and click this quick link for Summarize My Notebook, and it can go ahead and show you that it's going to read through all that documentation and bring me information back. Again, this is functioning just like your standard Copilot experience, except all of the knowledge source is only coming from the documents that you've uploaded. As you can see, it's working. There we go. Catching up. Now you can start seeing that it's pulling in root causes for coding and heating treatments, corrective actions that need to be taken, giving me a full view of what all of this is. However, if I go back to that main page of my Sprockets project, go ahead and pull back over here. It's wanting to misbehave. There we go, Sprockets project. Now, one last element I want to show you because it's going to feed into everything else that we do with agents. And one of the reasons why it's in this middle space between standard Copilot and agents is the Add Copilot Instructions button. This Add Copilot Instructions button is now going to allow me to write in a prompt 0, text that the Copilot is going to read before it ever delivers any answers back to me. So therefore, going back to what I was talking about standard Copilot, having those incredibly large prompts that in order to get exactly what you want, you have to feed in. Now you can start adding those in as instructions to notebooks and agents so that you don't have to repeat yourself time and time again. So for instance, I can write some simple things like, whenever possible, add information as a table. So that can tell you how it is actually going to redistribute information back to me. I can also say something simple as, please act as a project manager in your responses. So therefore, I can give it a role to function and a way to address people that's coming into this. But some other really nice ways to really add in here is thinking about the people that you're working with and how they work best. So for example, I could also say, please make sure all text is dyslexia appropriate. I'll spell it right here eventually. Appropriate. There we go. So now it's going to take all the text and think about, oh, there might be somebody dyslexic that is going on with, that it might be using this. So I'm going to make sure all of that text feeds into that outcome. And I can simply click save. And you're going to see that the beginning of those instructions are kind of showing there, showing me that I've made some edits. And now, hopefully given it a few more seconds to really register this, I'll ask that same question, summarize my notebook, and when I do, I should be able to see a big difference in what's being shared. Oh, here we go. We do have some questions while I wait for this to go through. Let's see. I don't have notebooks. Is this an updated Copilot or should everyone have it? And I think that someone has answered that question. And looks like Salam has also got his question answered as well about whether it can be any cloud service or OneDrive only. It will have to stay, SharePoint and Teams are the Microsoft versions, and that's going to be the quick access one to get. So if you want that early update, everything is going to be one source of truth, you're going to want to use a SharePoint or a OneDrive, and SharePoint's in Teams as well, in order to make sure those files stay abreast. However, if you're thinking about another cloud service like Box or Dropbox, those don't have any natural connectors to our notebook, sadly. But as you can see, now that it's been able to deliver this information, I'm able to see that it's now pulling things in tables. It's highlighting specific text. So that way for dyslexia-friendly people, you're able to read it a lot easier. So it's taking all of that information and making sure that it's the exact way that I asked in those instructions. I don't have to repeat myself anymore. It's all now loaded in to who this notebook is. All right, so that's going to be my kind of preview of notebooks, but that instruction element is really what's critical, because instructions are what takes what Copilot does somewhat to the next level. It teaches it what it needs to do for us and how it can do things better. And so as we talk about agents, instructions is going to really be a key element of what's going to make them very useful. However, at the same time, we are going to also talk about how agents are going to have a few extra skills as well. So there's 4 different subclasses of agents. 3 of them you will have access to today. 1 should be coming to the governmental cloud very soon. And the first type of agent that pretty much anyone can build is a retrieval agent. So a retrieval agent's main job is to go and find information and deliver it back to you, filtered through the instructions that you write through the agent. So whether you say, I need it written in a specific format, or I need to focus on these specific elements, it's going to funnel any answer it gives you automatically through those instructions. It's also going to have the capability of generating text as well. So you're going to be able to have maybe something rewritten for you or generated from documentation that you put in with specific plans in mind. So that's going to be really nice to have. However, we get to kind of use that power also in SharePoint as well, because a SharePoint agent, very similar to a retrieval agent, is able to pull information, but it's housed inside of a SharePoint itself. It becomes a custodian of all the files and information within a SharePoint and a little bit beyond as well. However, if you have really been feeling like you're hitting the limits about what AI can do, and you really want to see it actually start performing tasks for you and actually accomplishing goals, that's when we get into task agents. Now, these agents are going to be a little bit more advanced. We're going to go to a separate program called Copilot Studio to get into them, but they are going to be able to piggyback on a system known as Power Automate, meaning that anything that Power Automate can do, whether that's send an email, update a line item on a list, change metadata on a file, it's going to be able to do all of that for you within that task element. And not only that, but sometimes you can have kind of a task-based agent working without you even touching it. Now, this sadly is not a feature that's available just yet in the government, but it should be soon, and that's the autonomous agent, where agents can actually be running in the background without you ever having to do any sort of prompting behind the scenes. Now, again, these task and autonomous agents are going to be a little bit more complex, so that's where you're really going to want to find your power users to learn from or contact IT to get some guidance into making them. But we'll be previewing all of them today. All right, so with that in mind, let's hop back to our demo screen. So the first port of call I want to go to with agents is going to be right here underneath our agents tab on the left-hand side. Now, notebooks may not be visible within certain ways of accessing Copilot. Like if you're looking at Copilot through Teams or through Outlook, you may not see that notebooks option there, but it will be available in office.com. However, agents should be visible in both Teams and Outlook if that's the direction you're going to interact with Copilot. The first few agents I want to show you are actually agents designed by Microsoft, and that's the Researcher and Analysts agent. I believe I've been told that Researcher has been made available to you, and it is an excellent example of taking our Copilot experience to the next level. Because what Researcher does is, while Copilot is really kind of focused more on delivering compact pieces of information in a timely manner, Researcher removes those restrictions. Microsoft built this specifically so that way whenever you are asking it a question, it's going to spend the absolute most amount of time it can in delivering an answer. So an example that I like to share is I'll go ahead and look at my history. And I asked Copilot to go ahead and create a 10-page paper for me talking about how Copilot tools have changed over the last 10 years. So as you can see, as I scroll down, it has actually delivered so much more content than probably you have ever seen from a Copilot response before. That's because, once again, it removed those restrictions and was able to actually provide me everything that I was asking for in the full length I needed it. Now, I asked specifically for 10 pages, and that's definitely what it delivered as I continue to scroll. But I will warn you that to get this output, it took about 10 to 15 minutes for this researcher to be running, because it's very thorough and it makes sure to fill whatever you are requesting of it. So with that in mind, I can always scroll down to the very bottom of my screen, and you'll see that Researcher has a button that says, hey, convert this to Word. And with a simple click of a button, it can go ahead and generate everything that it's created inside of a Word document for me to immediately jump to. Now, once we were talking about instructions, in Researcher, the instructions were already pre-programmed in by Microsoft. And it's the one, those instructions are saying, hey, take the exorbitant amount of time, look at all of these different resources, ignore these certain restrictions on standard Copilot to make all of this content possible. But while Microsoft has made this, it's also given us the ability to create our own style of agents to do specific tasks for us. Again, think of agents like contractors. If our standard Copilot is intern, it's just trying its best. Contractor is coming in with a specific purpose, and we just need to give it the guidance it has. So let's go ahead and show you what a built agent can do. So here's my legal document stylist. So I have built this agent with specific instructions to take whatever documentation I give it, review it on a legal template that shows all the different types of styles of writing that needs to happen for legal purposes. And now I can take all my documentation and run it through this agent. So I can say, can you tell me what I need to change on this doc? I'll go ahead and upload a document in question and let it run. So now it's following the instructions that I've built into this agent, where it says, take whatever is loaded in, look at it and compare it to a different document that's loaded into the agent. And with that in mind, come up with the output that most addresses my question. And in this case, you're going to see it's already reviewed the document and it's saying, what would you like me to change? And you know what? I want to see the full legal rewrite. Oh, it's waiting to finish. There we go. And don't worry, it's smart enough to know whenever I misspell something. I'll go ahead and look in the chat to see if there's any more questions while I wait for this to load. Can the documents be on a Teams channel shared tab? They absolutely can. So, really, this is a little bit of inside baseball. Whenever you create a Microsoft team and you go to that shared tab, that's actually just a SharePoint in the background. So whenever you go to load that documentation in, it should be listed underneath some of your SharePoints as an available option. Just look for the name of the team. That should give you access to the SharePoint behind the scenes, and you can pull files directly from there. And it's decided that it's giving me some runaround. It hit an execution error. Of course, whenever I'm trying to impress you, it's not doing what I want. So you know what? Let's build something better. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and build this from scratch. Here we go to our new agent. And so this new agent button is now going to allow me to create agents from scratch, like this legal document stylist that used to work earlier today. Now, before I use the feature that you see on the screen where I can just type in an answer, I want to show you a little bit under the hood of what an agent looks like. So if I skip to the configure menu, I can come here and show you that, hey, I can rewrite this agent's name. I can call it legal expert. I can give it a description. I can fit in instructions as I might need. So going back to what I was saying before, I can go to adding knowledge sources. So I can add all my SharePoint files, all my Teams files, my Outlook. I can enter in URLs of specific web pages or URLs of specific documents that I want loaded in. So, and then also I can say search all websites if I want to include things outside of just what's inside my system. I can also say use specific sources, the ones that I've loaded in. I can ask it to reference the org chart or profile info if it's going to be about people within the organization. And then I can turn on certain capabilities as well, such as creating documents, charts, and code, or creating images as well. Now, I could spend a lot of time with you all filling this all in and showing you all of how this works. But like I said, this is a tool that is very much more user-friendly. So I can actually go back to my agent builder option and I can say, I want to build an agent that will read documents I upload and tell me how to change them to be better in a legal sense. It's not very detailed. I could spend a lot more time writing out that prompt, but this is actually an agent that has been built to help me build an agent. And so now you see that just by using that prompt, it has filled in all of this information for me. Legal document advisor, it's added its description. It's now included a long list of instructions, which is a great guidepost. I can come in and edit these instructions anytime I want if I want to make changes, but it's already preloaded for me. It will go ahead and start asking me if I want to add more documents for knowledge, turn on the capabilities I need, and simply by clicking create, I'm now able to build this agent from scratch with the help of that other agent. Now I'll come in and we'll try this one more time. Can you review this document for me? I'll go ahead and add that same document that I had before. And now, because this is an agent that I just didn't build from scratch, that's one Microsoft helped with, I'm going to guess this is going to work a little bit more clean than the other. Go ahead and look at some Q&A as we're waiting. Is it limited to 3 files uploaded? So that somewhat depends on the subscription that you have. If you have a full license, you can definitely add in more. I think, though, if you have the basic license, it may be restricted to only 3 right now. But there we see it's gone ahead, read over it. It's saying, hey, add definitions to appear, such as corrective actions, set down backgrounds and facts. And the nice thing is I can always come to this agent later on, click the edit button, and now I can get to that back page again. I can add more content. I can add more documentation that it can use for reference points. So this is always going to be available for me. All right, so that is our term for a retrieval agent. And it's very close knit to our SharePoint agents at the same time. So here's just a standard SharePoint, and I can actually come to this right-hand side of my SharePoint and click this button right here. This is going to allow me to access a built-in Copilot for this agent, for this site. So therefore, it automatically knows all the files that are in here, all the information that's being stored, and it's focused only on the information that is contained. So I can say, what is this SharePoint about? And it's going to be able to pull back information that it gathers from reading everything that's on a page, on a SharePoint list, in the documentation that's being saved, so on and so forth. Give it a second to look here. I'll look at more Q&A. There we go. I don't think we're seeing anything. We are kind of running low on time, and I still have a little bit of wow factor to give you. So I will say, hey, if you wanted to make a custom SharePoint agent, meaning, hey, I have an HR SharePoint, and I want to have a custom agent that only answers questions about billing or PTO or anything of the sort. Maybe you have a departmental SharePoint and you want to be able to have an agent that's specific to a project or specific to something that's across different organizations that everybody needs to keep abreast of. You can click this new button, click on Agent, and now from here you can actually do some of the same features we just saw. Give it a name, give it a description or purpose. Under behavior, you can write a new welcome message, add some starter prompts, and down at the bottom, add instructions, just like we had before, being able to really detail out what you want this agent's purpose to be. However, under sources, where it gets a little bit different. Again, this is a SharePoint agent, so it's focused mainly on SharePoints. Right now, it's looking at everything that is within the SharePoint, just like that standard agent I brought up. But if I click on these three dots, I can say add contents from the site, and I can specify, oh, I only want you to pull from specific folders, for example, or specific individualized documents, and therefore it can be limited in that way. However, I think all of us are already having that in the back of our head fear of there's so much documentation that is sprawled out across all the different SharePoints. With that in mind, Copilot can actually help bring all that information to one place because I'm able to actually search for other SharePoints. Let me find one here. There we go. And now I can actually pull files from different SharePoints and also include it in this one agent, and this agent will only live on this SharePoint. So therefore, no matter where your information is, if there's one source of truth, you can go ahead and create an agent around that and place it in that section. All right. So that's our SharePoint agents. Now let's get to the good stuff. This is going to be the stuff that really hopefully opens your eyes. And that is our task agents. So the first agent I'll show you is an invoice agent. Now, I've built this agent to help people buy new pieces of technology. If they need a new computer or a new monitor or anything like that, they can utilize this agent and it will automatically generate an invoice for them. But it does more than that because it can actually walk you through the step-by-step process of putting that request in and making sure the technology is right for you. So on the back end, I've given this agent instructions to behave in a manner of it's helping me choose the right elements I need for my new technology, while at the same time, it's looking at a list of actual technology that I have available. All the different types of computers, all the different types of monitors, printers, mice, keyboards that are available for this organization. And that's just being kept within an Excel document. So now I can come in here and say, I need a new computer and a new monitor. Now, it could go ahead and make the determination of whatever it thinks I want based on just this prompt. But because in my instructions, I've taught it to ask questions and get more information, it's going to search that Excel list and then bring back options and ideas for what I might need. It might still make suggestions, but it's still giving me the opportunity to tell it in a conversation more elements that I might need. Bradley asks in the comment, so we could program budget details and specific vendors? Absolutely. If you can feed it that information that you're looking for, it's going to be able to read that, utilize that, and output information with that in mind. And again, it's not something you have to upload into the prompt. It should just be available. Now, however, this invoice agent is wanting to be difficult today and not actually activate. So let's see if I can use my other agent for right now, or if it's just a problem that's all across the board. So we'll come back to our invoice agent here in a little bit. We'll see if it can help us out more. For right now, I'll show you another agent that I have as a backup. And this one came from the fact that I've worked in IT long enough that I'm tired of all of your IT tickets, okay? It's not bad that you're filling them in, but some of you, and you know who you are, will write the message, "It's broken, please fix." That doesn't give me a lot of information as an IT professional and how to solve the problem. So when I was first thinking about how an agent could be helpful for me, I thought, wow, what if I had an agent that answers questions? But the problem is, I want to be the one that's still helping out because there could be nuances that Copilot just doesn't know about. So instead, I built an agent that doesn't answer questions. It asks follow-up questions. So I'll come in here and say, I am having an issue with Microsoft Word. Spell checker seems to be stuck on Spanish. Oh, here we go. Perfect. We just need to give it a little time. So as you can see, it doesn't automatically jump to answer questions. And honestly, I had to program that into the instructions. Copilot was so willing to help. It was trying to solve people's problems. And I had to be very clear, hey, only ask follow-up questions. And so these follow-up questions are not questions that I've programmed in. I have sent this agent to the web to find out possible follow-up questions that could be helpful. So in this case, I can say, are you using Microsoft Word on desktop, web, or mobile? I'm going to say desktop. Is the entire document being checked? Yes, the entire document. Have you already tried changing the proofing language in Word settings? I have not. Is there an issue will occur in all Word documents? Just one file? And have you recently copied and pasted text? Yes, I have. So now it's taken all of those answers and it's not necessarily actually generating an answer for me. In fact, in a few seconds, it should send a message saying, hey, your issue has been logged. Thank you. Now, I could program this agent to do 3 rounds of questions. I could program this agent to be much more specific in the type of questions it's answering. But for this demonstration, I left it to be pretty simple. But in the background, what Copilot is doing right now, this agent is going through and connecting to different elements in my ecosystem. So the first thing it's going to do is come over to this SharePoint list. And with a quick refresh, what you can see here, and we'll resync it here in a few seconds, is that it has been compiling all of these different problems as tickets inside of the SharePoint list. And what I've programmed it to do is create a short kind of description of the issue to put inside the title line, then a full description that takes the initial request that was given to the agent and then all of the follow-up answers that were given and compiles that directly into a full description paragraph for me. It automatically identifies the application that was connected. It sets the status to new because it's a brand new item, and then sets the check-in date 1 week from today, giving people who are working on this issue a little bit of an advancement. Now let's come over here. Yep, looks like our issue's finally been logged. It's just running a little slow today. And now if I refresh the screen, there we go. Word spell check Spanish. User reports that Microsoft Word spell check is stuck in Spanish. User on the desktop version. Entire document is affected. User has not tried changing the proofing language in settings. Issue occurs in just one file. So all of that information I was just being asked is now being compiled directly for me. Now, this is nice and good, but let me show you a little bit, another little treat that I put in there for this agent. And that is I customized it a bit. So I can say, I am here with a VP and he can't get his PowerPoint to show. The button for presentation mode is grayed out. And we'll just very quickly go through this, and I'll read some questions as we're reading through here. Is this being done in our tenant? This Timo is not. This is just my Planet Technologies tenant, as Karen has shared, and that's why I kind of gave that disclaimer earlier that things might be a little bit different. From Michael, for SharePoint agents, are the results of the prompt responses still limited to the access of the person initiating the question? That is such a good thing to ask, and yes, it is. Copilot, no matter what form you give it, is always piggybacking on your permissions. So if they came to this SharePoint, they asked a question about what files are inside of it, only the files that they have access to will be part of that generated answer. All right, so as you can see, we have some questions here. Local computer, all files, they can edit, no banner, and I don't know. Now, we'll give this a few more minutes, but I'll tell you what's going on, and that is in my instructions to this agent, I didn't just tell it how to behave. I told it to look for certain dependencies. So in this case, I included that this was related to a VP, someone who is a little bit higher on the chain. And because of that, now this agent is able to recognize, oh, this is a vice president who's a problem. I should go ahead and elevate this. So if I come back over here, and hopefully it's going to pop up for me. Not yet. We're going to have to give it just that little bit of time that we've been waiting for. Oh, looks like we have another question here. When the issue is logged, the agent should be able to search the SharePoint database and suggest a solution that was provided earlier for a similar issue. It could do that if I programmed it that way. So I'll show you a little bit under the hood of this agent here in a second and how this works. I'm just trying to see, there we go. Now it's been logged. I'll come over to my task list, refresh, and you'll see that that priority has now been set to urgent. I didn't tell it that it was urgent. I didn't tell it that it needed to be done right now. It was able to recognize clues from the prompt and make adjustments on the fly. So seeing how this agent seems to be the one that's working the best, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at it a little bit more. So I'm going to go into my Copilot Studio. And from Copilot Studio, this is kind of my home base for maintaining all of my Copilot Studio agents, all of the more advanced agents. Now, those agents that you've made yourself, the first ones, those retrieval agents I showed earlier, they kind of stick with you. They're connected to you, and even if you share them with other people, you're still the primary owner. But if you wanted to have an agent that was a little bit more across the whole entire organization or for multiple people, this is definitely where you want to go, especially if you want those added features like being able to manipulate things across the tenant. So we'll go into our Microsoft issue logger, and you're going to see some familiar faces. I have a name, I have a description, I can actually choose what model I want this agent to use. So as you can see, I can choose a few different variations of ChatGPT. In your experience, you'll now have access to Opus as well from Claude. And you'll also see that there is ability to monitor it. I've written in my instructions, and an element to show is that in these instructions, I have these little boxes. These little boxes represent actions that I want Copilot to take. And if I scroll down, you'll see that under Tools, there are those options. The Send an Email option and Create Items option. Now, if you're familiar with Power Automate, you'll see some pretty familiar faces and what we're able to do. And if you're not, this might open your world to what's available. Because as you can see, this now enables Copilot to do so many actions, from creating chats within teams to actually posting messages in channels or creating a team for you based on information that is shared. If you want to get more into Outlook, it can go ahead and not only create events for you, it can flag emails automatically for you. It can draft messages and have them saved in your draft for you. So you have a lot of options in what you have this agent do. But that's not all. Before, when we were talking about knowledge for our personal agents, it was kind of limited to what we had access to. But if I click on Add Knowledge here, there's even more options, such as SharePoint and Dataverse and Dynamics. You can write some custom APIs to be pulled in here as well. So there are some really advanced features in making this agent more and more powerful. But at the same time, it's able to perform these tasks because of how you program it. So my question to you as you're dreaming up agents in the future is, What do you want to actually happen within the Microsoft environment? And then work your way backwards for that. However, some of these items are really big ideas that you might want to get into. And because of that, I have some instructions on where it's best placed to start. So I'll go back to my PowerPoint slide. And one of the things that I want to note is that while you dream big, and I fully endorse that, if you want to get better at this, it takes practice. Like I was saying before, this is not just using a tool, this is building a relationship. It's learning what works best, how to phrase things to get what you want. And because of that, you have kind of two different elements to look at. Number one is, utilizing the agents as they are. Oh, sorry, wrong slide. Your next steps are really starting where you are specifically. So meaning that, hey, I am now working in this small kind of view. What are the small steps that I can do to really build this out? Do I need to go ahead and build a notebook? What can I pull from my Copilot chats that I'm using on a reoccurring basis? And with that information, then building one small agent for yourself. Once you start getting the practice of building those personal agents and understanding how that text goes, that's when you can really lean out to your IT department and say, hey, I'm ready for the big leagues. Here's some ideas that I have. I want to try and make this happen. And you don't have to do it alone. Planet can also be here to help as well, as we go ahead and give industry briefings all the time about agents and what's out there and what other people are doing. We can help you do technical deep dives if you want to understand the inner workings of how these agents actually function. And at the very end, we have actually an agent catalog, things we've been building that we can go ahead and help deploy in your system to give you kind of a head start, as it were. But that is where I planned on ending today. Hopefully, I've been able to give you all a little bit of inspiration into what's next. I'll go ahead and check the questions one last time, and then I'll throw it over to Karen. So, some questions that I have, we already answered that one. Oh, one from Jeffrey. Is it the case that only licensed Copilot users can interact with your agents, i.e. submit problems in this example? So there is some different calculations when it comes to people with full licenses and without. As of right now, if you have a full license, you can interact with agents all the time. However, if you have just the standard license, the one that does not connect you to the rest of your M365 ecosystem, you can still use agents as long as your ID department has enabled certain functionality to have happen. That does cost a little bit of extra money per use, so you will want to talk to your IT department about what's available if that's your plan, but that's definitely a conversation to be had with some people that are a little bit above my pay grade. And speaking of, I'll go ahead and hand this over to Karen to take us out. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, John, for being here. Also, next week, we're continuing. This is an 8-week session, series of sessions. And next week, we're going to be talking about Power Platform. Again, I put the link to all these sessions in the Q&A. Please sign up. We'd love to see you. These are free sessions. And with that, if there are no more questions, I think we're good for today. But if you think of anything later on, please don't hesitate to email me. My name is Karen Mann, and my email address, I'll put it in the Q&A. It's karen.mann@nc.gov. I'd be happy to help you out or find someone who can.